All right, everybody, welcome back. We got more linebackers to go through here. And again, we are in the day three area. We are in kind of the latter portions of day three now. We're at least getting there. These are guys who are probably going to be sixth round picks, seventh round picks. So adjust your expectations accordingly, but that doesn't mean they're all going to be bad or they're not going to have some meaningful role to fill. First, Nathaniel Watson of Mississippi State. Already going to be 24 when the season starts. He's going to be our first object of examination here. 6'2", 233 pounds, 32 and 7/8 inch arms, so arm length is nice. Decent hands too, 9 and 7/8. 40 time was good, 4.63. Not extraordinary, but good. 159 10-yard split is good. His vertical and his broad were both low, so he's got very little explosiveness in his lower body, it looks like. So we don't love that, but overall, okay combine, I guess. And the big boards, seventh round, seventh round. The database puts him in the sixth, so he's probably going to go somewhere around that latter half of day three. Massive production over the last 2 years for Mississippi State. He's got 270 tackles, 25 tackles for loss, 16 sacks, 2 picks. I mean, the guy's been all over the place. The guy's racking up numbers like crazy. He averages more than 10 tackles a game, averages more than a TFL a game. He averages more than a sack every 2 games. He's been insanely productive for Mississippi State. PFF grades have been pretty good as well. So the positives are pretty obvious here. He makes a ton of plays in the backfield, constantly knifing back there, trying to make a big play, constantly triggering downhill as fast as he can so he can make a play in the backfield. Tackle fundamentals are strong as well. He's somebody who wraps up and hits hard, tackles through the ball carrier. He takes on blockers and sheds through them well. That's an area of his game that is good. He's a fantastic blitzer. 16 sacks over the last 2 seasons is pretty standout, remarkable. So he's bringing blitzing skills to the table. He's got good instincts in the run. He's got good instincts for reading plays and knowing where he needs to be and how to get there. He's got good technique when he's chasing a running play down. He doesn't overrun that much. He doesn't get out of position that much. He uses the chop steps the way that you like. He brings a lot of good things to the table as far as chasing the running plays down. I do think that while he does all these things really nicely, there is something to be desired with his closing speed. I feel like he's a little bit passive with his closing speed, which is weird to say with his tackle for loss numbers, but let me give you an idea of what I'm talking about here. In 2023, he had 137 tackles, only 35 were solo, which tells you that he's letting the whole group get to the ball carrier rather than just him. Not necessarily anything wrong with that, but it does show you that he's not doing this on his own, and there is a little bit of, I think, a lack of closing speed to actually make the play. He doesn't have great speed, so these outside runs are going to give him some trouble. When a running back bounces the ball outside, he's going to have a harder time keeping up. His change of direction speed is not particularly good. He doesn't have a lot of explosiveness down low, and his coverage abilities are just kind of poor. So he's got a little bit of a narrower use case as a player, right? Like, he's a great blitzer, so maybe he can play on passing downs, but his coverage is not going to cut it, and that's something that is probably going to be exploitable at the next level, like we saw with Jordan Brooks. I think that there's definitely a use here, but it's probably going to be as a early down linebacker, a run down linebacker. I'd go for it in the fifth round because I think he'll be good in that role, but I can't see too much more than that for him because he can't cover, and there are some athletic limitations. All right, now we have the other Notre Dame linebacker, Marist Liufau. So this guy, 23 years old when the season starts, he's a little more interesting to me, I think, than Bertrand, although I'm still not enamored. 6'2", 234 pounds, really long arms, 34 and a quarter, so that's cool. 9 and 7/8 inch hands. Testing numbers, the little bit that he did were okay. 4.64, 40, 159 10-yard split, workable. A couple big boards have him in the third or fourth round, major big boards. The database is less optimistic. They have him in the fifth. I feel like these major big boards are a little bit overzealous on him. I don't think he's going to go in the third or even the early fourth round, personally. The numbers are a little underwhelming when you look at them. He's got less than 100 combined tackles over the last 2 years, although 10.5 for loss, 3.5 sacks. So there is some good stuff. The PFF grades are pretty good as well. But you're going to look at this and you're going to go, what? Did he miss half the season? Does he only play on certain downs? Does he only play like 25 snaps a game? I understand that, but you have to look at the player, not just the production. So his tackling is fundamentally sound. I think he'll be a good tackler at the next level. He also has long arms, which is desired from a tackler. He's willing to stick his nose in there on a blocker to disrupt the play. He's another guy who's good at setting the edge or plugging the hole when a blocker's pulling through the hole. He's an intelligent football player who generally stays on top of things mentally. He doesn't get tunnel vision. He keeps the big picture in mind as he's making decisions out there. He's also good in coverage. I think he's a quality coverage linebacker, and he should be able to offer that at the NFL level. He's a good diagnoser of plays. So that's a fairly complete player. So Marist, I kind of like this guy. I definitely like him more than the other Notre Dame linebacker. I feel like this guy's offering a little bit more. He doesn't shed blockers that well. It's not terrible, but he needs to be more efficient in how he shakes the blocker. He's rarely the first one to the ball carrier. He has a little bit of passiveness in his game, which is why his overall numbers are a little bit low. I think he could stand to trust his reads and trust his instincts a little bit more and trigger downhill quickly. Needs to take better angles, and he's not a great overall athlete. I mean, it's not bad, but he is somewhat limited as an athlete. So I think this guy, Marist Liufau, is going to be a third down linebacker at the NFL level. I like what he can do on the blitz. I like what he can do in coverage. I definitely see the value there, although he won't be an every down player, I don't think. I think that his tackling makes him playable on late downs, maybe, but I don't want to invest too much into it if I don't think he's going to be an every down player. But nickel linebacker is really important in the modern NFL, so I would say fourth rounder. I don't think he's going to go in the third like a couple of these big boards say, but I could totally see it in the fourth round, and I wouldn't be against the Seahawks doing it if they feel like they need a nickel corner. I'm sorry, a nickel linebacker. So yeah, I like this guy more than I thought I would when I went into the evaluation. I'll put it to you that way. Thought I was going to be kind of cold on him, but there's a lot of stuff that is appealing here. Okay, so next up we have a guy that I did a lot of watching of over the last several years, Eduan Ufoso, Washington Husky, and I'll say this. Watching him play at UW, I never really got the sense that he was going to be anything special at the NFL level. I never felt like he was going to be some great player. I thought he was going to be a valuable player. I appreciated what he did tremendously at UW, and I think he was great last year. But overall, I didn't get the sense that he was capable of doing some of the things that he showed he could do at the combine. But 24 years old when the season starts, 6 foot and 1/2 inch, which that's not ideal, but the size is not bad. 236 pounds, almost 33-inch arms, 9.25-inch hands. Measurements are fine. You'd like him to be a couple inches taller, but he's still taller than a Jeremiah Trotter Jr. His combine scores were excellent, and this really put him on the map. I don't know if Ufoso was going to get drafted, and then he had this combine, and now he might end up being a fourth-round pick. 4.56 40, 1.59 10-yard split. His vertical and his broad jump were amazing. 93rd percentile, 94th percentile. The dude has a ton of explosiveness in his body. ESPN is the only major big board that's really kind of caught up to the trend here. They have him in the early fifth. PFF and CBS both have him lingering in the 7th. That's not going to happen now, I don't think. The database has him in the 5th, which they're catching up. I think they're getting close to where it's actually going to go, but CBS and PFF are just a little behind the times here. There's no way somebody who tests like this is going to go that late, I don't think. 94 tackles, 8 for loss, 3 sacks, a pick, 3 passes defensed, and a forced fumble last year for Ufoso. 80 PFF grade almost. So the production is solid, not necessarily spectacular, but it's good. Brought a lot of positive things to the table for UW. He doesn't really have another season to call out here because he got hurt a lot. He had a lot of injuries. That's the main obstacle for him at this point, I feel like. But there's a lot of good stuff to say about Ufoso. Hits blockers with great force, really good at disrupting the play by filling a gap. A very hard hitter on ball carriers as well. Just generally speaking, it feels like he brings a lot of oomph to the position. Talented coverage linebacker with a physical style of play, very physical in coverage with tight ends. Should be a wizard on special teams, if nothing else. I think he'll offer a lot there. He works through the wash well for the most part. He maneuvers through traffic well. Like the Texas playoff game, not so much, but overall, I feel like he does that fairly well. And the testing, I mean, you got to keep coming back to these testing numbers. He might end up being a better player than he looked in college, but he's got to get past all the injuries. Not the only UW player who needs to get past a lot of injuries this draft. He does tend to overrun plays a little bit, gets a little overly aggressive. Change of direction speed is not great. His straight line speed and explosiveness are both great, but it's a little hard for him to change direction. It's like a DK Metcalf thing almost. I don't think it's that bad, but same issues with changing direction. His instincts are dulled compared to others at the position, and he is a little bit on the shorter side. So there are some things you're going to have to work through here. If you take him, you're definitely crossing your fingers that he can remain healthy, and you're definitely hoping that you can coach him up on some of the things, because these things are fixable, right? The instincts, the tendency to overrun plays, that's fixable. Some of the stuff isn't. Some of it really is, though. So with his testing scores plus his breakout 2023 season, I think you throw the dice in the fourth round. I do. We're kind of, in some regards, you're kind of lucky that a linebacker that has this physical profile, this athletic profile, is available in the fourth because of the injuries. I think you have to try to take advantage of it. So I'd go fourth round on Ufoso, and that's it for this video. Let me know what you guys think of these guys down below. More linebackers coming soon. Go Hawks.